Hi everyone, I'm going to show you a demo of a project I was able to build from the ground up using Amazon QuickSight. It provides a user interface for creating dashboards and gets you started analyzing data quickly. For a project, I wanted to extend on this website that Johns Hopkins has on the coronavirus. While it gives you trends for active cases, it doesn't give you trends for deaths. You just have a number here, and if you wanted to understand the trend, you'd have to remember every day's number and see if we're increasing or decreasing. And I've been dying to understand how that was going. Fortunately, Johns Hopkins puts out their data out on GitHub, so I can grab that information out here, and that's what I've done. So I grabbed the time series data and I put together a visualization. I can show you very quickly what it is. So this is what I put together, and it took me a little massaging of the data, but I want to show you what the end result is first, and then I'll show you how I got here. Here we have trends for COVID-19 deaths. Let me close this. That's the building screen. And what you can tell is here what is happening to the top countries that have the most deaths. So this is what it's graphing here, and you can see that it's matching what we would expect. US, Italy, Spain, France, they're all on top in terms of cases, number of deaths. And then out here you can click on Insights, and it'll give you some insights that the machine learning engine figured out. So here's like the top 3 movers, saying that Ireland, Kazakhstan, and Honduras had the most increase in the last day, and it tells you how much the increase is. And it gives you a bunch of interesting facts. Now you do have to understand the data to make sure you're interpreting it properly, but I thought that was a really cool feature. The next one is totals, and this is a graph of which country has how much of the share of deaths resulting from COVID-19. And you can change this representation, so you can make it a pie chart or a donut graph or a vertical graph. So you have different ways of looking at this data. I want to move on to activity. Activity, what I did was I tracked the difference from day to day. And so here, when you look at this data, you'll see how much from day to day the number of deaths have increased or decreased, which is also an interesting piece of data. And I think this is where you can see whether we're trending up or down. Now, US is jumping all over the place, but it is kind of trending downwards. It looks like it. We had this one big spike here, but it looks like we're trending down. And if you look at all the other countries that are in the lead, the top 5, they also seem to be trending downward, at least starting to plateau. So that's a good sign. The next thing is like a heat map. And a heat map is what you see on Johns Hopkins, but it's nice to be able to duplicate that effort and be able to put that together. And that was actually very easy to do. So now I want to show you how we got here. When I download the data, I can just bring it straight into Excel just to look at it. And this is what it looks like. There's a line or a row for each country, and there's also position information for each country. And then for every day, there's a count of fatalities. And then as you go further to the right, you'll start to see the numbers increase as the disease progresses. Now, one of the issues with the way this data is stored, typically time series data is row by row, but here it's column by column. So I had to write a little program to change that. So I have a quick Python app that will take all of the data and convert it to time series in row format, and just run that program, and it processes those files very quickly. Now I have those files. The next step, and so, okay, real quick, here's what the resulting data looks like. Now we have a row for each day's activities. The other thing I did was, while I was in there, I created a delta field so that I can track how much change is occurring from day to day. So as we start to have cases, if yesterday we reported 6 deaths and today we report 7 deaths, then we have a change or a delta of 1. And now you'll use that later in the graphing. Now that we've created the data, we have to put it somewhere where the data analytics can get to the data. So we're going to put it in a bucket. Now we can pull from many different sources, but we're going to use S3 because it's really easy. And all I did was click on this button, create bucket, and give it a unique name, and a bucket is created. And then you come in here and you literally just drag and drop the files that you want. So here, let's say I'm going to pull over something I don't have in there yet. This time series. Actually, I'm going to use the JSON here. It's much faster. And you just confirm that you're going to upload it, and it's up there. That's all you have to do. Now, for each time series file, I have a configuration file that points to that file, and it also says what format it is. And that's what I'll use. So I need to come in here and grab the path, copy path, which is, you know, how you get to that bucket. To come back to QuickSight, and off the main page you go to Manage Data, because what you're going to do is add a new data set. So you click on Manage Data, and here's all the data sets that have already been brought in, but I'm going to bring in a new one as an example. Okay, and here you have many different sources you can go to grab data. I'm just going to use S3 because this is the quickest way to get that done. I'm going to give it a name, and this name is important because that becomes the name of your dashboard. So I'm just going to call my example all right, and I'm going to paste in the URL of that configuration file and hit connect. And you can either start visualization now, but I like to preview the data because sometimes you have to fix data and you want to fix it before you move on to the next step. And if you don't like the data, you cancel so it doesn't actually create the data set. So we're going to create it. It's bringing in all the data. And if you look at this, one of the things I want to be able to use is longitude and latitude, so we can actually put this on the map. So here it figured out latitude, but it didn't figure out longitude. So I'm going to change this and specifically say that's a longitude type of data. It's a type of data. And that's all I really have to do here. Everything else is working fine. Sometimes there's some issues with data and you have to make sure that it truly is coming in the right format or it will not come in. So here I'm going to save and go straight into visualize. So here it looks like it's going through that process and it was able to get all the records in without any errors, which is great. And it starts you off with an automatic visualization, but I'm going to change this to a line graph. And on this line graph, I want to have the dates at the bottom and the graph of how many fatalities going up. All right, so on the x-axis will be the date. Now we have the date. On the y-axis, we want the count, the number of fatalities, and it's represented by the field called count. Now we have a graph that shows the count of all fatalities on, but I want a little bit more information. I want to know which countries are having how many fatalities. Okay, and there you have it. Now, one thing that's happening, there's a default value that says if I have lots of values, it's only going to display the first 25 and lump the rest into something called other, which causes this huge thing to occur and you can't really get any good information out of this. So we have to make some changes to this to make this work right. One of the things I'm going to do is reduce the number of dates. It's defaulting to 200, but we don't have that many days. I'll reduce that. And then it calls each of these lines represented by country color. So each line is a color. That's what it means. And I'm going to say I want 100. Now, we look at the line, that other is still there because all the countries are still there. It's listed the first 100, but there's still like 200 other countries. So what we're going to do is filter the data and we'll filter it on country. Now right now it's including all, which is not doing anything. We want to filter it down more. And what we want to do is filter out the top countries, the top 100 countries. So we're going to say 100 here, and it's going to say by what field is it going to determine which one is on top, and we're going to use the count. So the number of fatalities will say which countries should come out on top. And there you have it. So now when you hover over the data looks right because you have US, Italy, Spain, and France, which are the highest on top. And so now you have a good graph. Other things you can do is name the tag. So give it a descriptive name. You can give it a larger title so it's more prominent. And you can add more visualizations. If you add a visualization here, it'll attach it below. What I'd like to do is put it on another tab so we can use more room. And here maybe what we can do is get a sense of which country has what share of the fatalities. Okay, so we pick country, and this is just number of records, but we want the counts. And then now we get a much more accurate sense of, you know, who's got the largest share of the fatalities and who's got the smaller share. And then you can come back to visualizations and pick different representations. Maybe that's a pie chart, right? Or it's a graph going sideways. So there's different ways to represent the same data. So you can take your pick what you like. So let's move on to another type of visualization. We can do a map. So what we want to do is show a heat map of where the fatalities are occurring and what's the magnitude. So the geospatial fields is latitude and longitude. So I'm going to click on those fields that we marked off, and now it has information on each location. So right now it just puts a dot on there. But what we want to do is have the dots get larger based on the count, fatality count. You just click on that, and now you have count as a determining factor for how big the circle is. And the last thing is I'd like to differentiate each country by color. So that's the next field, and I'm going to click on country. And now you have it representing each country with its own color. So there you have it, a quick demo of how you can do some visualizations very rapidly. I hope you enjoyed it, and click like if you like it. Thank you.